Lately, I've been getting a lot of requests to cover different AUs after doing the Sonic Dark Gaia and Dragon Ball Z infection videos, and due to the high demand, I'll try to cover one every day. But now it's time to cover the Sponge Virus AU. Now after what I just seen, I don't want to live in a pineapple under the sea. The SpongeBob pandemic is a story about a virus that has completely taken over the Bikini Bottom, sending the town into total doom with the aqualife there becoming zombie-like organisms with barnacles that might cause a psychogenic itch, or just might make your skin crawl. Those infected with this contagious virus somewhat turn into a creepier version of a sponge, forming holes and pores that look similar to barnacles. Starting out in part 1, we're shown data files from maybe Sandy or better yet Plankton. SpongeBob, as you can see, is infected and is sadly pronounced dead, but like a zombie is seemingly still mobile. Patrick's also infected after coming into contact with SpongeBob's dead body and is completely unable to move and started stress eating, which might be the reason why the infection's kinda sprouting out of his body like a fungus, because it's being fed a lot. Now Mr. Krabs unfortunately is missing, and all they found was an empty shell. It's likely he's been stress eating as well, because last time Krabs left his shell within the show was because he was molted. This happens when a crab gets too big and they end up outgrowing their shell. Next in part 2, we're shown Sandy the squirrel's point of view, where she's right now struggling to make a cure for the virus. And meanwhile, Squidward is looking petrified as he looks in the distance at a mob of infected sea creatures walking slowly towards Sandy's dome, saying, "They're already here." Some of the infected that are unfortunately caught up in this mob are people like Mrs. Puff and even Mr. Krabs' daughter, Pearl. It's likely his daughter being infected might be the main reason why Krabs is missing, or maybe he's been stress eating and outgrown his shell just like how Patrick has when he got infected. Anyways, in the next part, we see a teardrop that falls on a picture while Gary, who's sadly infected with his flesh bulging out of his broken shell, looks in distress and sadness at SpongeBob taking him jellyfishing for the first time years ago. Gary's not only SpongeBob's best pet, but his best friend, and it sucks to see him on his deathbed, but at least he knows he'll be with SpongeBob again pretty soon. Next, we're shown more files that probably came from Sandy, possibly after her, Squidward, and I'm guessing Larry the Lobster, who's a famous bodybuilder in the Bikini Bottom, runs into the horde of the infected sea creatures at Sandy's dome. Because not only does it show that Mrs. Puff was in fact infected, but it also says that she was killed by Larry the Lobster when the infected broke into Sandy's dome. Eugene, also known as Plankton, is pretty healthy, and he's using the SpongeBot he created a long time ago for protective armor, and surprisingly DoodleBob is presented in this AU. Seeing that he's around during all this pandemic stuff isn't really good at all. It kinda makes the stakes really higher, because if you know anything about DoodleBob is that he's very evil. Basically, ever since he was created by a magical pencil that SpongeBob found, he's done nothing but try to kill everybody since he was born. What makes it worse is that he's also probably immune to the infection as well. He was apprehended and sealed away by SpongeBob, but it's possible in this AU he somehow escaped the paper that SpongeBob trapped him in. It also says that he had overthrown King Neptune, so I want to see how that happened, because King Neptune is literally broken. Next, we're shown the aftermath of the infection's raid on Sandy's home, and man, they are brutal. They completely destroyed and overpowered Sandy's glass dome. To put that in perspective, if Sandy's tree dome is located in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, which is 1,000 meters below, which means that her reinforced glass dome was withstanding 200,000 pounds of force at all times. That means that the infected was stronger than 1,487,000 hippos. So as Sandy and Squidward look from a distance, Sandy doesn't seem pretty happy, and eventually gets a call from Plankton, who tells them to head over to the chum bucket as he's getting closer to finding the cure. and also tells her to cry about it when he finds out that her home was destroyed. So as Squidward and Sandy make their way over to the chum bucket, Plankton hangs up the phone. He looks down and sighs. Then he looks back and says, "So Krabs, friends always help each other, right?" And in the back, it's revealed Krabs, who was missing, is tied up and infected, flinching and jittering out of hunger. Many of you that watch SpongeBob know that Plankton and Mr. Krabs have a long rivalry. They were even friends at one point and even settled their differences from time to time in certain episodes. So it's not that outlandish that Plankton would have some remorse for Krabs in these type of moments, but then again, there are some times where he just doesn't care that anything happens to Krabs, even if it's deadly. Meanwhile, we're shown what happened to Larry the Lobster after Sandy's dome was raided, and he's wandering the streets of the Bikini Bottom when he runs into an infected Squilliam. A rich, stuck-up rival of Squidward since high school makes eye contact with Larry the Lobster, who looks at him and smiles and with no remorse clobbers him with his severed hand from the back of the dome. Then a huge truck pulls up, running over Squilliam, and out of nowhere pops out DoodleBob, staring down at him wearing his new crown. Soon after that, we're shown a Bikini Bottom news broadcast where the fish anchorman warns the citizens, saying the sponge virus has developed in the Bikini Bottom and shows the process of the infection using Fred the Fish. Ironically, there's a running gag with Fred the Fish, who's usually always the guy screaming, "My leg!" after something dangerous or deadly happens within the show. So it's funny he's being used as the test subject in this AU. So this is when we're shown the 3 different phases of the infection. In phase 1, you'll feel tired and fatigued, and 1 to 2 holes will open up like pimples on the outside of your skin. In the second phase, the skin on your body starts to deteriorate. Your mouth dries up, and wrinkling rapidly increases through the body, getting worse and worse and worse. In the final phase, the anchor congratulates Fred for getting through all of the stages, but notice how he didn't congratulate him for making it through all of the stages. Fred's completely corrupted with the virus, with his skin sagging, holes located throughout his body, and his pupils being completely dark and hollowed. His bones even started mutilating as well, since his stance is crooked and his bone is sticking outside of his leg. Fred, or should I say, it, widens his jaw, completely loses all control, frantically spazzing back and forth until the TV cuts off. Meanwhile, at the place that used to be King Neptune's kingdom, Larry the Lobster has been taken captive off the streets and is being walked around by DoodleBob. Bubble Bass is also there, and eventually Larry asks him how did he survive all of this. And basically he says that he was taken in by DoodleBob because of his knowledge of dungeons and sea monsters, which is basically the Dungeons and Dragons of the Bikini Bottom. Now, walking towards the throne room, DoodleBob says to Larry, "I hope you like this place. It's important my slaves like everything here." But Larry shrugs it off and says, "So how did a pathetic doodle like you dethrone King Neptune himself alone?" And Doodle responds, "Alone? I didn't do it alone. No. I had Stone Bob, Toy Bob, and Abrasive Bob." As you can see, these are different doppelgangers of SpongeBob that are shown throughout different episodes throughout the seasons of SpongeBob, and it looks like some of them were upgraded or improved, probably by the power of the pencil that DoodleBob wields. Then we're taken over to the Krusty Krab, where Squidward and Sandy look, reminiscing on the old times they used to have in the Krusty Krab before the pandemic. Squidward says, "I really miss this place." And Sandy says, "We can make it fast. We get in, we get out." And when Squidward says, "I hope there's food inside," it's revealed Patrick is inside, watching them closely and breathing heavily. Now we know where Patrick has been stress eating. And then Patrick has a flashback, back during the day when everything went wrong. Patrick is counting horribly wrong, but during this, Sandy tries to tell him something, and he doesn't really make it out, so he responds with a random sentence saying, "No thank you, I'm fine." Then he's brought back to reality.
Patrick's memories woke up something. He screams out SpongeBob in the most eerie tone and breaks through the top of the Krusty Krab and grabs Squidward. Sandy screams at him to let him go, while Plankton watches from a drone in fear. Then, Sandy blasts Patrick through the mouth, but he regenerates because, if you didn't know, starfish have the ability to regenerate their lost body parts and limbs if needed. Then out of nowhere, Plankton pulls up in his own mech and says, "Hey Patrick, how about you fight someone your own size?" But sadly, by the next episode, Plankton's mech is defeated off screen, and him along with Squidward are awaiting their doom, as the infected Patrick screams, widening his mouth and preparing his belly. But then something interesting happens. Patrick's looking at Squidward and Plankton, but then looks over at the pineapple, which is SpongeBob's house, hearing laughing. That's when Patrick drops them out of midair, and they are thankfully caught by the Dirty Bubble, who is notably usually a villain within the show, but has possibly put all that to the side because the whole sea is at stake right now. Now, hearing laughing, Patrick stomps over to SpongeBob's house in determination and probably remorse as he hugs SpongeBob's house, most likely happy to hear his friends laugh one more time. That's when we're shown Plankton, who's in front of the infected Mr. Krabs, pleading with him. He pleads with him not to walk, to remember everything, all their years of their friendship and being enemies. Remember his daughter Pearl, his business, and most importantly, Plankton. And as Plankton breaks down on his knees in tears, he says, "Don't leave me after all we've been through. I want to save you." Unfortunately, Krabs still continues to walk, and none of this works, as SpongeBob's laugh echoes, Krabs follows. This angers Plankton, and he starts cursing up a storm, saying unspeakable words, and asks, "Why don't you listen to me, Krabs?" Then out of nowhere, Plankton's cut off by his computer wife Karen in a group consisting of Sandy, Squidward, Dirty Bubble, and Man Ray. And as they stare at him, they tell him that the infected horde is coming and they need to hide now. In season 2, we're taken to the bus from the rock bottom episode, where SpongeBob was stuck in the dark bottom of the sea where the most disturbing creatures live. I'm sure a lot of people when they were young had a lot of nightmares from this episode, because I did. But inside the crashed bus that's been completely taken over by the infected most likely, a survivor or somebody that was nearby coming to check on the bus is bitten and dragged away by a huge disturbing fish. Next, we're shown SpongeBob's cousin Stanley, who of course is evil and working with DoodleBob. And he approaches King Neptune's cell, and while he's there, he mocks and scolds Neptune, basically saying, "Look at you, you're pathetic, a wannabe parody of Poseidon, and you're supposed to be the king of all seas? Tss, you look like you lost your kingdom, and now you're forced to sit here and listen to me, a handsome man in a luxurious coat." Meanwhile, someone's watching from a magical globe, and as it pans out, someone says, "I'll save you, father." This is most likely Poseidon's son, who shows up in a special episode where he basically terrorizes the Bikini Bottom. Now, next part is kinda sad because we're showing Barnacle Boy, who surprisingly has gotten a hold of a shotgun. He's staring at Mermaid Man, who's infected, rotting to the face, and turning as the infection corrupts him. Just know these two were known as the Bikini Bottom's most notorious superheroes, but sadly, in a time where the city needs them the most, Barnacle Boy, hopeless, lets off 2 shots, ending both Mermaid Man and his life inside of a room in the senior home. Now, by part 13, we're finally shown SpongeBob's point of view of the day of the infection. It's another happy day for SpongeBob as he greets the sun and walks outside and says, "Ah, what could possibly ruin such a wonderful day?" Suddenly, Sandy shows up out of nowhere and asks SpongeBob, "Hey, do you want to be my test subject?" He of course accepts it, as next scene he's in Sandy's home and she presents him 3 dishes for him to eat. She says, "I combined chum cells and Krabby Patty cells and created edible chum," and SpongeBob eats it. It's possible we may have found what started this all. This spoon fed right here could be the cause of the sponge virus. Also, based off this part, we most likely know what Sandy was trying to tell Patrick that day, and she was probably asking him would he like to be the test subject as well. This could explain why he got so angry when remembering that day and looking at Sandy. Now back to the present day, Sandy and Squidward are hiding from the mob of infected while hiding inside of the chum bucket, and Sandy's tail gets yanked off in the process. And something's off. Outside, Patrick is back, completely normal, and using some star powers, he completely slices up the infected. Unfortunately, during this process, he kills Rayman on accident. That's when Squidward says, "You're an idiot, Patrick. You killed Rayman. And besides, an hour ago, you were a monster." Then Patrick says something fascinating. Like fried chicken, a starfish can be reborn from its own ashes. What Patrick's basically saying here is what I was saying before, how starfish have the ability to regenerate their whole body. And with that power, Patrick is basically telling Squidward he's been reborn. That's when we see Toy Bob burning something and saying, "All shall burn," and DoodleBob says, "Stop, that's enough, this is perfect." And it's revealed that he was forging his magical pencil into King Neptune's magical trident. Not only does the pencil allow you to draw anything you imagine, but now it's mixed with the powers of King Neptune himself, which makes DoodleBob an even deadlier threat now. And during that process, in the final scene, we see Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob, who are infected, having a conversation that we can't really make out because they are speaking in a mysterious, alien-like language. SpongeBob is alive, ruling over the infected, preparing for his next steps of the infection. Gary's gone as well, and as Patrick gets stronger, and DoodleBob, SpongeBob is in his room laughing, waiting and plotting on how he's going to shift the power and make the infected dominate. Subscribe and turn on post notifications to not miss out on the next part. And thank you for watching until the end of the video. God bless you people. Peace.